We start this episode of Delayed Offside. To begin with this segment here, we'd like to toss it over to one Ryan with his start to this episode. I hope it's self-deprecating because I really don't know where else you can crap on at this stage when it comes to anyone's fandom, but I'm excited to see. So let's, while Adam tries to figure out how to use his chair, we will see what Ryan's
What is
got
he
presented.
doing over there?
I am trying to figure out how to use my chair. Sorry, guys.
He's got his new little fan cave that he's trying to.
Yeah.
You can't walk on a chair, Adam.
Yeah.
He's gonna roll back and
shows,
forth.
Adam.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's like comfortable.
All right. So guys, I have a confession. So leading up to last episode, I had created a video to have a little fun at Baron and Adam's expense. But when the Leafs ended up losing Game 7 minutes before we went to recording, I decided to scrap it. One, I was miserable and I wasn't in the mood for comedy at all. And two, really, how could I make fun of the Oilers when the Leafs just blew a 3-1 series lead? But, now that I've had some time to lick my wounds from the loss, I've had a bit of a think and, I've decided I spent way too much time on this video and effort on this video and had others lend a helping hand as well, that it'd really be a shame for it to not see the light of day. So
is this a video of you calling Carey Price overrated and garbage and then having him beat your team? This is the video of you taking those sound bites where you're talking about how Carey Price was done a garbage goalie.
I said he was overrated, and we can
No,
get into that later.
No. I think that's the video clip that I want to see, though, is you shit talking the goalie. You're
going to see the video that I'm going to play.
Okay, let's go.
But I will say I did make a small addition to this video that I felt I had to make in order to play it. So I did
Sunjay
that,
dressed as a cat,
and then I've gone ahead and decided to play it. So here we go. So I'm going to share my screen here.
All right.
You guys ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Are you tired of the same boring cereal every morning? Well, introducing the Edmonton Oilers cereal, the cereal of choice for any Oilers fan. But wait, it's not just for Oilers fans. Oh no, it's also made for Winnipeg Jets fans. Now, while your Jets are devouring the Oilers, you can too. There's also a fruity flavor version. This new cereal is packed full of delicious flavors. Orange, strawberry. Well, the rest of the flavors, to be honest, aren't that great. But hey, you have two of the best flavors in the world, and that's all you need, right? So pop open that bag of goodness and walk. Oh dear.
No problem. I'll just sweep it up.
The Edmonton Oilers cereal is a proud sponsor of the Delayed Offside podcast and Willie Weighs In.
Warning, do not watch Willie Weighs In. For the motion sickness may result in vomiting. And also, the cereal is not associated with the Toronto Maple Leaf cereal. A warning about that brand, there have been complaints that it is a choking hazard.
The Edmonton Oilers cereal, part of a balanced breakfast.
Oh no, not Bob.
Tastes so good.
Oh my God.
I got paid $20,000 for that cameo.
Sunjay, there is no chance. What did your wife say? What did you?
She was the cameraman for it.
Oh,
she actually sent in a complaint when I said I wasn't going to play it. She was all disappointed, so that kind of made me start reconsidering. So there you guys go. Hey, if we can't laugh at our teams, all we're going to end up doing is crying, and I think we've done enough of that.
I feel like I'm at a disadvantage here in the sense that I have, one, no ability to edit. Two, I have zero time to make this kind of stuff. And three, I'm at your mercy and all this.
I know.
That was amazing.
God.
That was so good.
That
should be on
really
a
good.
resume or a highlight reel. That was...
4
that's
years.
going on my
help,
IMDb.
Sunjay. Appreciate it. Oh, I forgot to go. I was going to explain. I was going to make a joke that our show got our first sponsor, and I was going to play the commercial. So that's how I was going to pitch to this video.
Gotcha.
That was good.
As to why there was
great
cereal and all that. Yeah.
I really was expecting a PowerPoint presentation. I'm not going to lie. That was much more in depth than I actually expected. Because that would be what I could do to retort is to give you a PowerPoint. Ryan's team sucks.
Little hand drawings from Adam.
I've got some decent editing abilities. You've seen my weigh-ins.
Adam's also, and if
it.
you guys don't know this, an amazing predictor.
Yep.
It's never gonna die.
Guys, I'm an amazing predictor. Like, you just got to calculate how much money you've lost betting on the Oilers in the last 4 years, and that'll help you really
I
guess those
put 30 on
predictions.
them winning the cup.
How about the previous year?
No.
50. You put 50 the previous year, so that's $80 at least.
No, I
Hold
didn't.
on. Yeah, you
Did
did
I
because
put
you
50?
you sure did.
Oh,
You and I
did
split a
with
$50
you.
bet.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
and I put 100 down.
Yeah, and how did that work out? Well, they didn't even make it past the play-in round. But enough about that. Let's move on to something more fun. Less. Well, I don't even know. Start the episode. Well, at the start of this episode, we'll break some news to you, which you're already aware of if you're paying attention to hockey, which is the Montreal Canadiens de Montreal have advanced to the semifinals after putting out an impressive leading streak. In fact, their best statistics since the 1993 team, making them, sound like they actually have a legitimate shot at the cup. But
You know what's going to happen. You know exactly what's going to happen, right? There's a pattern. Okay. The Jets sweep the Oilers. The Canadiens sweep the Jets. The Golden Knights or the Colorado Avalanche are going to sweep the Canadiens. Mark it down as a promise prediction.
So then
Everyone put $500 on that because Adam predicts.
those are guaranteed. That's Shiny
That's
Williams
guaranteed
lock
money.
of the week, right? That's guaranteed money.
it's found money.
That money on the Oilers has
Adam,
to
didn't
get
you
won
take
by
the
someone.
Jets in our predictions?
I think you're right.
Oh,
I was the only one that took Montreal. So
You were,
yeah, but you did. You only took Montreal like the same reason you took them against the Leafs, you troll.
hey, I'm 3 for 3 in the North, baby.
You start spouting horns and speaking in rhymes, I wouldn't be surprised.
Your hate has really fueled a great predictor.
3 for 3. I mean, what can I say? As soon as you take the Flames out of the equation, I'm great. It's just when I think with my heart instead of with my head is when I get hurt.
Holy cow. You're reverse Adam. Like, that,
Yeah,
right? Like,
exactly.
oh my God. It's like the Flames version. It's scary. Okay, let's talk about this series because I think this is a surprise in a lot of ways. Right off the bat, Mark Scheifele at the end of the game, like a game where they're getting outplayed by the Montreal Canadiens and they're losing at the very end of the game on an open net goal. Mark Scheifele, arguably the best forward for the Winnipeg Jets, makes no attempt to get the puck, skates from one end of the ice to the other, lays out, and I want to say, what was his name again? I'm sorry.
Jake Evans.
Jake Evans, thank you. Lays out Jake Evans, and basically after that, they had not been able to turn this thing around at all. Hellebuck's numbers, his save percentage numbers dipped to like 0.87, I think. They were finding zero offense, and they just didn't look like the same team. I think today on Hockey Night in Canada, I think it was Kes Campbell was talking about and showing the fact that like Blake Wheeler's positioning versus the Oilers and how he was kind of being like a middle ground forward. He's so far back in the defensive zone, like instead now that they just never had the same setup as they did against the Oilers. And it just felt like after that moment, after that hit, this series had completely tilted the ice. What do you guys see? What do you think turned outside of the Scheifele? Like, what are the things that you've seen that have resulted in this Montreal Canadian team making the advance to the semifinals?
It's kind of I hate to say it, but kind of a boring series to watch. But at the same time, it was fairly defensive. But it seemed like today when I was watching the game, Montreal, when they got the puck in the offensive zone, generated a number of chances. Winnipeg really struggled to get good shots off, except for Logan Stanley, really. And it's like Montreal shut them down every time they tried to enter their zone or try to generate anything. It was broken up, and it was just that did not look like the Jets team of the first round. And you could tell that the absence of Scheifele was their detriment.
Was it just his absence, or was it the way that he got removed? Like, did that hit just suck the energy out of his team as well?
Oh, it's definitely that hit. That hit, I think, really, put Montreal together. It was the glue that really had let's beat the crap out of these guys. Let's show them on the ice. I believe that was the quote after. We're gonna hit them back on the ice. And yeah, the Jets unraveled. It wasn't good.
And to win in the playoffs, you not only have to be good, and I'll talk about why the Canadiens have been good in this series in a sec, but you also have to be lucky. And they've been very lucky this playoffs. They have yet to face a team at full strength. They play the Leafs
You're
first
wearing
game.
a Toronto jersey and you're cheering for the Leafs. You can't call them lucky.
But they have been lucky in terms of they have not faced either of these teams at full strength. So first game against the Leafs, Tavares is out, and there was a few other injuries the Leafs were dealing with. And then against the Jets, they lost Scheifele, but also they lost Dylan DeMello, which was their top pairing defenseman. So, they didn't have to play a Jets at full strength, but they have been very good in terms of their scoring depth. And there was an episode a while back, we were talking about which team in the North Division had the best scoring depth. I picked Montreal. And I said, they don't have a lot of elite scores, but line after line after line, you have players that can put the puck in the net. And that's been proven in this series. In this game, they showed some statistics, and line 1 all the way to line 4, it's equal ice time for all the players. And that the fourth line of Corey Perry and his line mates, I mean, it's really not even a fourth line on most teams. They're doing phenomenal. And it's just wave after wave, short shifts, lots of pressure, hitting, blocking, and Carey Price has played astounding. He's played even better in this series than he did against the Leafs.
Go ahead, Sunjay. Retort. Fire.
I was gonna say stone sharpens stone. So when you're sharpening a sword here, Montreal was sharpening against Toronto, right? Like a good team, they're going up against them. Winnipeg was sharpening their stone against butter. They were going up against Edmonton, so they didn't really have anything to really get themselves into playing playoff hockey and get them into feeling that pressure and that atmosphere. Whereas Montreal has been playing it for 7 games before this series. Winnipeg was all loosey goosey with Edmonton. They won 4 straight. I'm sorry, but that's what I'm sticking with.
Well, and Barron did talk about how a team that does the sweep versus a team that had to go 7 games starts out cold. And I think you saw that. And especially when you have a player like Hellebuck, who was as hot as he was in the playoffs, that first round, he was the best goaltender in these playoffs. He
stole
lost
a series.
Yeah. He stole that series. He's lost it. He lost that mojo that he was feeling. Not that he played terribly, but he wasn't the same Hellebuck that stoned McDavid and Draisaitl for 4 games straight.
It's funny, Ryan, you make a point. You talk about how they lost DeMello. I think we've all for whole season looked at Winnipeg Jets and said, boy, this team doesn't have a lot of depth defensively.
Mm-mm.
And losing DeMello, I think, exposed that. And that's where you see the click in. Hellebuck was able to play as long as he had some decent defenseman in front of him. But as you take out your top guy, you can't really move your second guy into that spot quite as effectively, right? And I think that's where it hurt. That lack of depth there on the back end kind of pushed more onto Hellebuck, and they were not able to do anything. But they also lost one of their top goal scorers. I think all throughout the thing, they fell apart. And I'll say this, Pierre-Luc Dubois was not a part of this series. He did not factor into either series. He
hasn't really fit with the Jets for whatever reason. He hasn't looked like the guy that played for Columbus last series against the Leafs in the playoffs. He was a monster in those playoffs.
Could we say Pierre-Luc Dubois?
And Baron, I liked your tweet today about, is this the first time ever that 2 teams lost a trade?
Yeah, name okay, and this is I asked a couple people this, name a trade involving 2 superstars, 2 big NHL names for their franchise where they swapped and both were horrible.
Dion Phaneuf.
Because for who?
To Calgary for Matt Stajan.
No, see, it wasn't just Matt Stajan though. It was Matt Stajan, Jamal Peter,
a bunch, yes,
Myers.
but-
Yeah.
And
So
Phaneuf-
exactly.
Phaneuf played well for the Leafs. He was playing out of his element, unfortunately.
Also, I think Stajan's your hero for like a couple of reasons. So also good commentator. Stajan's good commentator.
Yeah, he is. I like
No, it's such a weird draft because if you like look back 3 years ago, you would have been like, oh, Puljujärvi, look at this guy. You know, he doesn't even belong in the top 10. Now you look at it, you'd be like, yeah, like he got drafted right where he probably should have been. Like it's crazy how like 2 years made such a difference because you're like Laine got 40 goals, Dubois is playing really good. So you're like, okay, after Matthews, who'd you take? And now it's like, well, now it's a question again.
Like to that comment though, like what we say, like the Jets, when we're talking about this, they gave up a lot. Like they didn't give up just Laine. They gave up Roslovic as well. So they give up 2 players for this guy. And I was listening to some stuff. They're like, well, he didn't have a good start in Columbus. Well, he chose not to play some of those games. Like he literally was out there screwing around. Then he was in quarantine. And then like, it was hard for him to like get into it. I'm sure this would be a tough year to be traded. Like it would be a tough year to like get involved and be in the locker room and all that crap. Like, I don't know. But man, does it feel like he just had nothing and gave nothing. And Patrick Laine, the same thing. Like if he wasn't getting benched, he was allowing several goals, his plus minus. Even he hated hockey by the end of the year.
But Torts didn't play Laine correctly. Like he was sending him on forechecks and stuff. Like he's a sniper. Like you got to set him up for success. In terms for Laine's, like I don't know if they did the same thing for Pierre-Luc Dubois. Like I'm not sure if the Jets put him in a position where he shouldn't be comfortable. So I'm not really sure why it's not working for him.
Like you lose Mark Scheifele and you're like, oh, who's my second guy I can move up there? Oh, Pierre-Luc Dubois. Like you should be like, that's a good fit. He was a top line guy there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not happening.
Like
Stastny was more dependable.
The center depth for Winnipeg was supposed to be amazing after they got Pierre-Luc Dubois because they already had Stastny and then you have Scheifele. Like those are 3 guys who could play on the first line at center in a pinch. So I don't know. It's confusing. I'm not quite sure what happened with him there. Maybe he didn't enjoy Torts, but maybe he needed that structure. Because I don't think Maurice's structure in Winnipeg is working. Like they're just so terrible defensively. And I know the Jets fans have been beaking us about how they shut out McDavid and Draisaitl and they're Hellebuck shut them out.
Yeah. What's the one guy that always comments chicken?
Yeah.
Yeah. You make that point.
Time in Winnipeg coming to an end. Like, you know, they've had a couple of kicks at the can and they haven't been able to get it done.
Have you given him a great team? Like you can talk about those forwards, but that decor is not, once again, the same thing we talked about. That decor is not amazing. When he had a good decor, how did he do?
Yeah, like 2 years ago, I thought they had a really solid team up and down the lineup, forward, defense, goaltending. Like they were really solid a couple of years ago. But yeah, they lost so many defensemen. They lost like 4 of their like top 4 defensemen, wasn't it, or something like that?
Yeah, they got into defensive trouba. Oh,
and their forwards. I don't know. The first series, their forwards really seemed intent on playing defense and blocking shots and playing hard. I'm not saying they haven't done that this series, but Montreal brought that same game plan. They play the same way, but I think they play it better.
The thing is like when Winnipeg beat Edmonton, they were like everyone was on the same page, blocking shots. Like we said, Wheeler blocked a puck with his nuts. That's not something you're going to see McDavid, Draisaitl, Matthews, Marner, or Nylander do. Like they had something extra there to help push them. But I mean, you're playing a really perfect style of hockey, and maybe it just once something fell off that bandwagon, the rest of it couldn't keep rolling. We're focusing a lot on what Winnipeg did wrong, but let's say a little bit about what Montreal did right. So Ryan, are you ready to eat crow on Carey Price yet, or what?
Yeah.
I was very justified in saying he wasn't elite anymore. I never said he wasn't good anymore.
Oh, go back to the
elite anymore.
Yeah. Where's this video? I'd like to see this montage.
Price
is a joke.
I'll say, I guess playoff Carey Price is much different than regular season Carey Price because this is 2 playoffs in a row where he's come to play. And the first round, I didn't think he was out of this world good. I didn't think the Leafs got goaltended to losing to the Montreal Canadiens. I thought he made some big saves, but he let in a lot of goals too. But this series is something else. He's taken those past 3 games against the Leafs and continued the momentum, and he's feeling it. He's feeling great. But I mean, credit to the Montreal Canadiens, their defensemen and their forwards as well. Like they make it very tough on the opposition to generate good scoring chances and to get secondary chances. They're great at blocking the shots, and they're great at getting rid of those rebounds as quickly as possible and making life very difficult on the opposing forwards.
So one of the other things that's kind of popped up here. Sorry, I'm going to jump back a little. No, actually, no, never mind. Sorry. I was going to talk back about Winnipeg, but I'm like, no, we let that ship go. Man. Yeah, exactly. So when you look back at this, what are our thoughts for Montreal moving forward here? Is this a team that is going to, because of their style, play really well and do well and work their way to the Stanley Cup final, or are we expecting them to be done?
I actually think they have a pretty good chance. If you look at who they're going to be playing, Colorado or Vegas, Vegas, if Vegas wins, they have trouble scoring in the playoffs. Like they couldn't get anything by Vancouver last year, Cam Talbot this year. You put in Carey Price in the playoffs, and you have Vegas coming up to Montreal to play. I like Montreal's chances. And you go against Colorado, it's that old battle of Quebec, right? Like the old Nordiques versus the Montreal Canadiens. What can be better than that? And I think I like their chances there too. I mean, McKinnon's never played in the third round. It's the Montreal Canadiens. It's the third round of the playoffs. It's going to be intense. And I think it's going to be a longer series than a lot of people give credit. A lot of people were crapping on the North Division, but I think Montreal's going to stand up and represent and be like, look, this North Division, probably like one of the best divisions in hockey, and is going to earn the respect of everyone that's been crapping on it. So I think when they go, it's going to be like 6 or 7 games, and I give them a good shot to win this next series.
Baron, you don't think if the Canadiens make it to the final, that'll change the narrative on how weak the North Division was? They were the 4th place team coming into the playoffs.
Yeah. Here's the catch. Here's what I think is, I don't think anyone's going to change their opinion on the North Division. Here's the weird part, and someone else made this point. I think it was Jason Strudwick. If the Canadiens get swept in 4 games straight, it will just murder all of the narratives around Austin Matthews' gold, McDavid's points. It will just kill it all. And the fact that the Canadiens swept and the teams that sweep don't necessarily go well into the next round is kind of interesting. So I'm curious. I do think Montreal is built for the playoffs. I thought they were since the start of the year. But realistically, on their regular season projection, they wouldn't have even made it had it been in a different division. So I really don't know how this is going to play out. I'm kind of curious.
I think I think they have a shot in the 3rd round if they control the pace of the game. If they can slow down either the Colorado Avalanche or the Vegas Golden Knights, I think they might have a shot. Because they play at such a high speed and with skill. And I don't think those teams are used to being like grabbed and pulled and hooked and, like what we've seen in the North Division playoffs this season. And I think if Montreal can rattle them in that way and control the pace of the game and slow it down, I think that's going to bode well in their favor.
One thing that's interesting will be the switching of the refs, because refs have been relatively the same refs in Canada the whole time, same ref in each division. So there's going to be a switch here. I watch those other series. I don't see clutching and grabbing like I do in the North Division. So I guess I asked the question is the Montreal Canadiens style going to be allowed, or like that type of hockey style going to be allowed, or are the refs just going to say, no, that's holding and call a penalty like they're probably supposed to? And I think that will play a huge role in it.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll depend on who's reffing the games.
Oh,
the rest from the Canadian games or this year or the American.
No, it's true. It's going to be interesting in that sense. So they did get permission though to have games here in Canada. So someone's traveling here. That's a far away if you got to fly from Colorado to freaking Montreal.
I'm telling you, move Colorado Avalanche to Quebec City, have them wear the Nordiques jerseys, and just let them battle.
That'd be awesome.
Perfect, right?
They have the Nordiques jersey. It's the white one.
I know they have the reverse retro. Like, wear it all 7 games and just bubble it up in Quebec.
It's going to be interesting. Just to me, I always kind of thought they were going to end up playing Tampa, and then it's like, no, they're going to play the top team, which will either be Vegas or Colorado. Let's move on to that series a little bit, because that series has been kind of a shocker. Of the first 2 games, Colorado won it. In the first game, Colorado looked dominant. The second game, they looked lucky, and then the third and fourth game, Vegas has looked dominant. And Sunjay made the comment, and we've all talked about this before. Vegas really doesn't seem like to be a high-scoring team when they should be, given some of the guys that they have. However, that last game, the offense came, and it came strong. Marchessault scoring, Stone scoring. If they get rolling, is Colorado going to really be able to recover? Because I think one of the things people are pointing out here is that if you look down the lineup, where do we see a big difference between stars on the team? Is goaltending. Grubauer versus Marc-Andre Fleury. And right now, Flower is supreme.
Yeah, I was saying before, I think he's one of the greatest goaltenders of this generation of tenders. And if I were a betting man, which I am, not great this year, I would put my money on Vegas.
Oh, Colorado's going to win. Frick.
Adam, you were saying about Fleury being like one of the greatest goalies of all time, and I gave you some pushback on that, but
in a week, Sunjay has changed your mind.
I'm mad enough to admit I was wrong, and I will put Fleury in the elite goaltenders of all time now. Like, this season, at his age, to be nominated for the Vezina and be playing this well in the playoffs again, I'm admitting my defeat and my mistake. He is one of the greatest goalies of all time.
Was anyone surprised Grubauer was a finalist for the Vezina?
Sorry, I thought you were going to call him a joke. I thought you were going to call Marc-Andre Fleury a joke.
Not anymore. I changed my mind.
Yeah. I would say I was, Ryan, because I don't think his numbers have been that impressive.
Yeah. I was surprised to see his name in there as well.
But I just the wins, right? Because he played for the President's Trophy winning team.
Right. But it's like Vasilevsky. But like, the thing is, Vasilevsky, to me, he's on one of the best teams. So it's like weird that he gets nominated, in the sense that I don't think that team relies on him, but his numbers are also outstanding. So it kind of makes
at least
more
this
sense.
season, when you look at goals saved above expected, Vasilevsky was near the top.
Right.
I'm not sure where Grubauer was, but I don't remember him being among the league leaders in that statistic or save percentage. But I mean, he has wins, right? So I just found that one was kind of interesting.
Who would you have had instead?
I thought maybe Saros would get in there, the way he basically pulled Nashville into the playoffs, put them on his back and carried them in. He had a fantastic, especially end of the season there. I thought maybe he would get in as a finalist.
Yeah, Saros is good. He did have a great season. Destroyed Pecorine, really amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Mike Smith.
Yeah, Smith.
I put him in there just so he raised his contract, so Edmonton couldn't sign him to a $2 million contract again. He'd be like, I'm a Vezina Trophy finalist. I deserve at least $5 million. So I was sad he didn't get nominated.
I think how like every decision you make is based around Edmonton. I've never met someone who has a team live rent free in their head as much as you. Like, honestly,
that's
like,
my thing.
You're probably like, we drafted that guy just to screw the Oilers. When you draft whoever you draft, it'll be like they're not even connected. You're 7 spots ahead of them. You're like, yeah, screw you, Edmonton. Take that. Anyways, I'm worried about you and your mental state. Just chill. It's all right.
Oh, no, I'm good, man. You guys are out now. I'm good. If you guys were like moving on to the next round, my mental state would not be very good. But now
it
just looks more and more disheveled as the playoffs continue.
To quote Brizgalov, it's only a game. It's just hockey. It's only a game.
Why you have to be so mad?
Why you have to be so mad? Yeah.
I'm not scared I'm scared of the bear in the forest.
I have to rewatch that. That was so good. That was the first season, wasn't it, of the 24/7?
Universe is so big.
I think that was second season.
Was that second season?
24/7.
Oh, it was so good.
I wish I had
Doesn't
them
he
all.
sit
I
down
only
to-
have 2 of them.
Yeah, and doesn't he
And
sit
they
down to
get
eat with
home.
Yager, and Yager has
And
to
they'll
get
leave?
up 'cause he's
Yeah.
laughing?
Yeah, they don't want to sit by him because they don't want the cameras recording them. He's like, please, Bruce, go somewhere else. So let's do this. We talked a little bit about Vegas and Colorado. Let's jump to the other series here. Specifically, I guess the one we're going to look at today would be Boston, New York. Now, this one was a little controversial today because I didn't get to watch most of the game, but according to everything I was reading online, this was a poorly called game. And I'm not talking just Boston sports writers but like sports writers across the board. We're talking about how poorly called this game was. And the Islanders, who haven't had a very great power play, were kind of firing today and really loaded up. Barzal's getting into a heater. And all of a sudden at the end, Boston started making a game of it, had a chance to come back, but couldn't complete it. And the Islanders won 5-4 and are now up 3-2 on the series. What are some notes about this series? What do we think is going to happen here? And how do we feel about the fact that they're speaking up a little bit about how the officiating is going?
Well, to touch on the officiating, I think it's good that people are starting to call attention to what looks unfair, what hasn't been called, and stuff like that. It's been frustrating, especially like watching that Winnipeg Oilers series on both sides. There were a number of blatant missed calls, trips, holds. Like, it was ridiculous. I remember watching Draisaitl trying to get up and like being held. So I you know what? They're a part of the game. They're a team within the game, and yeah, they're human, but they've got to do their job. There's a rule book. Call it.
This series, I would say, like, you want to like a playoff series, like, playoff style hockey. Like, this is it in terms of the hitting and the aggressiveness and the grit out there. I was just looking at the stats from this past game because I didn't have a chance to watch it live. Boston outshot the Islanders 44-19 in this game. And they had 2 less power plays. So I'm guessing, the Islanders went 3 for 4 in the power play. So there's the difference. So there's why Boston fans are pissed. I don't know if it's because of the amount of calls. I mean, Islanders got 2 more power plays than the Bruins. So I don't know if, the Islanders were getting away with a lot of stuff, or they felt the Bruins didn't deserve some of those penalties. What was the complaint there, Baron?
The major complaint is like Cassidy's complaint was more the idea that there's this thought out there that the Bruins are kind of a dirty team, but that the Islanders are like this clean, play the hockey the right way, good defensive team. And he's like, that's not necessarily true. Like, we had very few penalties called. So it seems weird that they're constantly getting penalties in their favor. And I don't know, like, to me, like I do not want the Islanders to move on because I do not think that their style of hockey is good for the sport.
No.
And I think it's boring. And if you had to ask me which team would I rather watch, I would have rather watched the Penguins over the Islanders. I would rather watch Boston over the Islanders. But here they are advancing again, 3-2 right now. Like, that's tight. But you have to feel in a game like where it's a 2-2 series that you're going to have, how many penalties were there called in the game? Total?
6.
Like, that's
4,
a lot.
Yeah.
Like 4-2, 4-3.
Islanders had 4 power plays and Bruins 2.
Like, doesn't that feel like that's a lot? Like, most series, like other games have like 1 or 2 or 2 and 2. It does feel like a lot. So I don't know. I can see kind of that argument, but I do think there's a reason to kind of be upset there in the sense that it's probably not consistent. And I think one of the things that people are pointing out was that some of the calls for stuff the Bruins were doing to the Islanders were pretty soft calls, and that the same thing happening. But I mean, I think you can make that complaint across the board. Like, I really could. I do think officiating's a problem, like Adam said. So
one of those penalties was a delay game over the glass, puck over the glass call.
Yeah, one of them, and not 3 of them.
No, I know, but it was the very last one too. So it would have been 3-2, and then Patrice Bergeron shot a puck over the glass to make it 4-2. So
cost himself the Selkie right there. Can't be defensive player if you're playing like garbage, Patrice. Smarten up.
By the way, can we talk about how that's such a stupid penalty? Like, I hate that call. I hate it. Like, why can't they make it like icing where you can't make a change or something?
It's just because Marner keeps doing it with the Maple
Exactly.
Leafs.
It's stupid. It cost us the game.
I mean, the one thing that's good is that you can't argue it, right? Like you could be like, look, this is a legit call. What can you say? It's like when someone gets a high stick and they're bleeding, it's 4 minutes. So you can't argue it. It's just the way it is. So, more calls like that, the better. I mean, when you got clutching and grabbing and it doesn't get called, you can be like, yeah, it could have gone either way. It could have went this way. This one, what are you going to say? You're wrong, ref. Like, no, I saw you.
I understand like a delay a game, like why that's thought of as a delay a game. Like that makes sense to me. But I think Ryan's on a good track there, which is you could basically make it an icing, and the same guys are stuck out there. It's now in your end, and you have a new team, a new lineup going against you, and that would also give an advantage. But at the same time, if you take away that penalty, there's less scoring in the game. So
I'm just thinking back before this was a penalty. Do you guys remember teams tossing pucks into the stands very often to clear a puck? Like, I don't. I remember lots of icings, but I don't remember them shooting it over the glass on purpose a lot of times. Maybe the goalies now and then.
Cigarettes, yes. Pucks, no.
Yeah.
I would in minor hockey. I would be like so out of shape. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Just dump it over the glass and get it off and drink it.
So it's Sanjay's fault. It's Sanjay's fault.
Support parents that came to support their kids always got hit by me.
Can't you just like throw the puck in the bench? Like, because that's not a penalty or delay a game. You just whip it in your own bench.
Yep.
You
right?
hit the coach.
What do you care? You don't play for those guys. Wire it right into that bench and be like, oops, sorry. Skate off. Give him the old Sunjay, sorry, and skate off.
Yeah, that's tough though. Like, because you have the opportunity when you have the puck in your end on a penalty kill. How wide's a rink, you guys? I'm honestly
feet.
asking. Pardon me?
85 feet.
You have 85 feet worth of width to ice it down. Do you necessarily need to fire it over the glass?
Yeah, I don't know.
This episode's off the rails.
So Boston Islanders.
Yeah. As we were saying.
That was my fault. I went off track.
No, but okay, let's go back to that. And so what does Boston need to do to get themselves back in this series, or to at least keep themselves alive in this series, I should say, and potentially move on? Sanjay, you haven't said much. Let's hear from you.
What does Boston need to do? They need to get their scores going. Taylor Hall needs to show why he was former number 1 overall draft pick, and they need that top line going, and they need to stop taking penalties by the sounds of it.
I want to make a weird point here, which is that everyone's like, Taylor Hall's amazing. Everyone's stupid. The Leafs are stupid for not getting Taylor Hall. The Oilers are stupid for not getting Taylor Hall. And then he doesn't produce. And this is not a Sunjay thing. This is like an online thing. He doesn't produce, and people are like, well, he needs to score more goals. It's like, everyone else is supposed to be jealous that you have him, and you have him. And Boston fans are like, like,
that's because Boston fans are spoiled.
I think it's Taylor Hall. I think he's just cursed. Look at him.
You make a really good point there.
He is. Oh,
his team also got the first overall pick. Again,
Yeah.
Buffalo Sabres. That's like a record.
That's impressive, man.
Has he not been producing though? Like I thought he had been. Has he gone old?
He had been. I think he was in the first round. I don't know if he's done as much in the second round here.
Yeah, and like that first line, like Pasternak netted a couple goals tonight. Marchand had a beautiful goal as well.
He's been playing really well.
Like, man, that top line, you can't just depend on them though to carry the offense. Like, it's the playoffs, so you need more depth scoring. And who was injected for DeBrusk today?
I'm not sure who came in for him.
But DeBrusk came out, and like maybe you put DeBrusk back in.
I don't think he's going to get back in. I think that's basically the fact that he's pulled. There's a lot of talk that he's probably done in Boston.
And that's a lot of the talk. That's what a lot of the talk was during the regular season as well around DeBrusk too. So I don't know, maybe that's just a bridge burnt, but
him and the coach don't seem to be getting along on the same page.
Yeah. So
Taylor Hall, by the way, has 5 points in 10 games. So yeah, not exactly phenomenal, but not terrible.
How many goals?
3.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of those were in the first round. I don't have it broken down, but I remember first round him putting up points.
Yeah, he was
from
good
what I remember.
Sure.
So probably just this one. But the Islanders are like, you have to be willing to battle to get your goals against teams like the Islanders. And
they play that full team game that like on both ends of the rink. Like it's crazy. And they've got a really good offensive awareness as to where each other are going to be. I did watch most of the game today, and man, watching them pass the puck was impressive.
It was nice it's good for them that Cal Palmieri's started clicking for them and producing. Like after the trade deadline, he really wasn't doing much for them, but it seems to be working now, and that's what they needed.
Did you see? I think I posted in the group chat Zajak's comments about
New Jersey
not playing on a young team anymore. That people here like know that they have to do, and your role.
Yeah, I was talking about that with my dad actually earlier today, and I was like, this seems to be kind of a trend in the places that like Hall has been. Speaking of Hall earlier, like the young core that's kind of unproven, that's really trying to be the leadership core, just like it's almost like a poisonous leadership core that doesn't quite know what a team is or what it takes to be a team to get everyone there.
Well, you often hear about that when you hear about teams that need to rebuild, and some people say, just trade away all the veterans and bring in all young players. But then you hear some other people say, don't do that. Like you can't have all rookies on a team. You need to have some veterans to teach the young guys how to do things in the NHL. And that could be the issue, is you just have too many young guys, not enough, veteran leaders and voices in the room. And it's hard to find your way when you don't have someone to teach you and you're just trying to learn it on your own.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it. Like you said, Ryan, once you trade away your core, you generally have to plug those in with younger guys, right? You want to give them time, but when doing so, you end up creating like a vacuum of some type. So in Edmonton for those years, they couldn't get free agents. So they had to rely on those young guys. So those young guys got put in roles they weren't necessarily ready for yet. And then you had nowhere else to do it. So you had to keep relying on young guys again. So what did you surround your young core with? More young guys. And New Jersey, they felt like they were going to be on that rebuild, but they brought in other guys, like they brought in Subban and stuff. But I don't know that I think the same thing. I think you're kind of stuck in that. I think Lindy Ruff's a good coach, and I think he'll do some stuff there, but they're still wading their way through a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
Tim says hi.
They're drafting 4th overall this year, so they'll have another player, most likely a young guy, in the roster next year.
But see, like, is it best to keep that 4th overall? Like, I like when their GM said shit when he didn't get the win it with it. 4th, New Jersey. They're just like, oh man, I can't read words, but I know exactly what he said.
Yeah.
But it's like, I mean, look at Buffalo. Buffalo's had tons and tons of high draft picks, and the same thing. They still got a void there, and they can't seem to fill it because the guys they're stuck with for veterans can't play anymore. Guys like Okposo, easy boy, Okposo, and
Skinner.
like, yeah, well, Skinner, God, that contract's the worst contract in professional sports. So I honestly, I do think that that's a big part of it. And you look at the Islanders, they're the opposite. They have a structure, they have a set. They were a laughingstock team for years too. But I mean, honestly, they've been better without Tavares than when they had them. And they don't, outside of Barzal, who needs to get paid, they don't have any really elite talent. So it's interesting, like they've run a good system, and I think they're going to be hard to beat in every round. I just hope that if they get past this, that Tampa crushes them.
Exactly, because otherwise every other team's going to try to replicate them, right? That's what always happens. The team that wins the Stanley Cup, all of a sudden you see a bunch of copycats, and you're exactly right, Brandon. I do not want to see teams like that get copycatted. I don't want to see that kind of hockey.
No, I really don't. Let's go to the other series, the final series here, which is Carolina versus Tampa. Carolina's put up a bit of a fight here. And I think we always talk about how great of a team Carolina is because they are a good team, but they just don't seem to be quite the team that Tampa is, probably because they don't have a $90 million roster. Also, Kucherov is like the forgotten guy here. He if he's not the second best, third best player in the world, like really, like McDavid, Matthews, whatever. But like honestly, Kucherov, we forgot about him this year. He's so good, right, Tim? Yeah,
he didn't take long at all to get back to being Kucherov. It took like a couple periods, and then all of a sudden he just exploded. We're like, oh, there's Kucherov.
What's that series at now? It's 3-1, right?
3-1.
Yes.
3-1.
3-1.
Yeah.
Like
I don't know why I keep voting against Tampa. I don't know why I do it. Every time I do it, I'm like, that's a stupid call, but I still do it just because the other team, and like Florida looked really good against Tampa, good against Tampa, and their goaltending just didn't come through for them. And God, I don't know this.
We talk about how, like, I can't remember if it's Brian Burke that had the saying, which is like, or someone told him this, that you fight 3 different types of teams or 4 different types of teams in a playoff run. You fight like a hard checking team, you fight like a scoring team, like there's all different types. And if you look at it, Tampa right now is going through that, and whoever walks out of, easy from the camera, but whoever else walks out of the Colorado Vegas series is also going to have gone through that, because the first round, Minnesota versus Vegas, was very different from the second round. And for Colorado, the Blues was very different from Vegas as well. So I like the final teams here are going to get they're going to be so strong, but they're going to have hits different types of adversity and powered through it at the end. And I think that's going to be an interesting thing to see.
Yeah. And it's not like Carolina's played bad in this series. Like, they're doing well. Like last game, they were neck and neck with the Lightning in terms of shots and scoring chances, but the power play, Lightning's power play is insanely deadly. They have so many weapons on that power play. It's so tough to stop. They were 3 for 6. They drew 6 penalties that last game, and they were 3 for 6 on the power play. That's tough to overcome.
I want to take this second and jump out of the playoffs. I want to give Sunjay his corner here, his Team Canada corner here, to brag and be happy for the one Flame player that basically carried the team throughout the entire series here. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about Team Canada, specifically just because Sunjay has said that this is his piece to contribute and he wants to talk about it.
No.
Okay, I was going to read the information you gave, which was June 19th will be the 29th anniversary of the last Canadian team. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong piece.
That's not me.
Sorry, I read the wrong piece. World Hockey Championship recap. Is this the most probable cold for Canada ever?
No,
most improbable.
Yeah, this is the most underdog team. Like, normally, whenever Canada's playing a hockey tournament, whether it be men's, women's, juniors, it doesn't matter. They're always one of the 2 favorites, right? Like, it's always like, Canada, or it could be this other team. But this year, this team came in 0-3. Like, they lost to Latvia for the first time ever in the World Championships. Like, this was not a powerhouse team. They lost their first 3 games, scoring 2 goals. And what happened? They needed a Calgary Flame to help them win gold, I guess. And Andrew Mangiapane. I mean, we should have signed this guy before the tournament because now he just doubled his salary. The kid comes in, he gets 7 goals. He's on that top line with Adam Henrique and Connor Brown. What a line. What a line. Like, they were scoring a goal, pretty much 1 or 2 goals every game. Every time I checked, they'd be like, oh yeah, Mangiapane scored, Henrique scored, Mangiapane again, it was Brown. It was truly magnificent to watch. Like, just such a awesome tournament. And like, with the Flames being out of the playoffs, this was kind of like, I always follow the World Championships because of that underdog story for Canada. But this was probably like the first time in a while that I've really followed it. Like, it's been going way back, back, like the early 2000s is when I kind of first followed it. But this would be like the first time in a long time that I like watched, like pretty much anytime a game was on, I'd be trying to check that out, trying to see who's playing and, what the score is. So it was a fun tournament. It was cool. The team, as I said, very underrated, or very much like the underdogs. And like my question for you guys is, so Mangiapane wins the MVP. He gets 7 goals. I have 2 questions. The first one is, how much stock do you put on this for the Olympic team? Like, do you think he gets a shot? Is he on the radar now, or is he still no chance at all?
Okay, I'll make a shot here. And I don't disagree that he probably deserves some consideration, but I'll say for years, lots of guys from teams that did not make the playoffs because the teams weren't good had players go over for this team, perform really well, and did not get a sniff on Team Canada. And we were already talking about Taylor Hall, but he's a prime example of a guy who always suited up for that team and never got anything. So it's hard to believe that Mangiapane's one time will warrant it, but that's just my thoughts.
No, and I agree, Baron. I mean, props to Mangiapane. Maybe he'll get some consideration to come to the camp, but I mean, you were the best player of a tournament with a bunch of no names. I mean, let's be honest. Like you look at the rosters. I mean, usually these aren't the best of the best anyways, because the best of the best are usually in the playoffs. But this was really not the best of the best. Like I was looking through the rosters before the tournament started, and I was like, I don't even know half these players. Yeah. Like some of them were junior players for Canada, right? Look, here's the top 10. I was just looking at the top 10 point getters in the tournament. So like Connor Brown, Connor Garland, and Mangiapane, Adam Henrique. We all know. The next guy's Peter Chileric, and then Liam.
You don't know Peter Chileric?
And Liam
Good
Kirk.
Dude.
Liam Kirk. Trevor Moore, Jason Robertson, then Gregory Hoffman, Nick Jensen. I know Barabanov. Hey, he was the guy the Leafs let go. Matthias.
If they only had him. If they only had him this year,
they would have won that series. They needed Barabanov. So I mean, congrats. It's a great story. They came, they started 0-3, won it. I'm very proud of them. But at the end of the day, already it's tough to put the best players together for this tournament because so many of them are in the playoffs, and then a lot of players just finished their whole regular season. They don't want to go over. This one was even more so because of, I'm assuming, COVID. They didn't want to, they just want to probably go home to their families and not have to go through all these restrictions again and all that type of stuff, or put themselves at more risk, or whatever the case might be. They really had to pull players from all over the place, and these guys usually wouldn't get a sniff at this type of tournament, and they were in this tournament. And so I mean, good on him, but it's tough to say he's worthy of the Olympics, where you're really taking the best of the best when he's the best of a bunch of misfits.
And I think maybe like we look at this maybe in a different light and saying maybe Mangiapane deserves a shot at first line on the Calgary Flames. Like, good idea. Maybe, he just showcased what he can do as a number one line in tournament play on a new team with new line mates. Could he create that chemistry on the first line for the Flames? That might be a path better traveled, I guess, for Mangiapane.
Well, that's a good point, because my next question was, watching Mangiapane, he had a great chemistry with Adam Henrique and Connor Brown. Do you think Calgary should go out and try to acquire one of these guys? Like, Henrique is a little difficult. His contract, he makes almost $6 million a year, so that is not a good contract for the next 3 years. But if the Ducks need prospects or picks and they want to eat some of that salary, maybe it's doable. Or Connor Brown with Ottawa, I don't think they're looking to move him. I think he'd be a little bit harder to try pry out of Ottawa, but I mean, Henrique and Mangiapane, and Henrique's a good player. Like, he is really smart. He's good two-way offense, defensive player. It's just his contract is just not a very good contract right now.
So I'm
Calgary
looking at. Go ahead.
I was going to say Calgary could always use help at the center position, to be honest. So, why not reach out and see? But I'm not sure if Anaheim's going to be willing to make that trade or not.
I'm looking at the Ducks. They're taking a serious dip in cash next year. because they're taking 8 mil off the books automatically for Getzlaf. David Backus is 4.5 million gone. And then they have a bunch of UFAs they have to resign. But oddly enough, Cam Fowler, 6.5 mil. That's one they're stuck with. Josh Manson, 4 mil. And then Gibson is 6.5 mil. Like they have he's got a long-term contract there. And Henrik was on waivers earlier this year, was he not?
Yeah, he was.
What's Calgary's cap situation like?
Depends who Seattle takes, but right now I think they have about 13-14 million in cap space. And if they take a Giordano or a Lucic, it would be closer to like 20. So
do they have to protect Giordano?
No, he's going to be exposed from all what I've been hearing. Calgary can only protect 3 defensemen, and they're like, Tanev played really well. Hannafin, he's young. You got to protect him. And
Giordano doesn't have a no movement.
No, he has a no trade clause, and I think that isn't the no trade clause the one you have to protect?
If you have a no trade clause, then you're forced to
he doesn't.
protect.
I don't think he has a no trade clause. From everything I'm hearing,
he has a modified no trade.
Everything
starting
I'm hearing from the local.
It says he's got a modified no trade here.
Modified, so I don't know if that changes things.
Maybe he's willing to waive it.
I know they talked to him about it, and he said, we'll see what they say. And like everything that people are saying is that he won't be one of the 3 defensemen protected. So I fully expect that he'll be exposed.
I think he'll get picked before Lucic, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, unless Calgary throws them a draft pick and like, look, stay away from Giro.
Or is it no movement clause and not no trade clause? That's who you have to protect. I can't remember.
I think no movement just means you can't throw them down to the AHL.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not sure how, but everyone is saying like, no, like he'll be exposed. So it'll be interesting to see.
Oh, that's fair enough. We did have some more things to cover, but I think we actually got to the end of this episode, despite the fact that I didn't think we had enough to really talk about today. Mind you, if you do your editing, you could probably knock this episode down to 10 minutes.
Highlights
of like the ranting off the top topic.
Yeah. So I'll just end on one note here, and then we'll call it a day. But the first female was drafted in the OHL. So Taya Curry, 14th round to the Sarnia Sting. So congratulations. Since there's been only one female to ever play in the NHL, it's kind of a cool thing to kind of see someone get drafted in the OHL now. 14th round's pretty far away, but still, I still think it's a pretty big move. So that's awesome, and congrats to her.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Okay, well, with that, that's the end of this episode. Thank you for listening. Subscribe, like. We do read your comments, even those that get blocked. And keep listening.
By you two, not by us.
Yeah. We don't even. Whatever. Yeah.
We don't even know how to block them.
Also true. So subscribe. Feel free to comment, find us, reach out to us on Twitter. Send us any questions you guys have. Post them on the comment section. We'd love to hear from you. And thanks again for listening. This is Delayed Offside. I'm Baron.
I'm Adam.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Sunjay.
See you guys next week.